Hello and welcome to Mandobug Crafts, episode 134, live. What's up, everybody? My name's Amanda, but you may know me on the internet as Mandobug, and this is my crafty podcast where I share the things that I've been making on lately. Making. It's mostly been crochet and crochet design, so that's what I have to share today, as well as like kind of yarn hauls, little mini yarn hauls. I got a mystery box to share. So if you're joining me live, say hi, say what's up in the chat. Let me know that you're here. And if you're watching the replay, you can answer any of my questions or leave your comments down in the comment box below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. So it looks like we've got Mocha. Good morning, Mocha. Hello, Estella. Here on time. Yay! I'm always happy that I make it to my lives on time. Sometimes I'm like literally to that last minute rushing to get here and set up. Good morning, Catherine. Good morning, Maud. Good morning, Samantha. All right, so starting out with something I've learned. You guys, this has been the week of messing up math repeatedly. And like, I feel like that's kind of a trend. I guess when I talked about redoing that pattern last week 6 times, that was less about the math and more about understanding why I was using the math I was using to construct things. This time, it's been straight up dumb mistakes. Like, that's the best way to describe it. I've been making very simple, dumb mistakes that are costing me a lot of time. But for something I've learned, and I should have caught this the first time around, it has to do with my my adult version of the ice cream party Cardi. So here, this is the one I'm talking about. This sweater out of the Hobbii Tweed Delight, which is a lovely wool viscose acrylic. Yeah, wool acrylic viscose blend. So this sweater is worked flat, which means you're turning back and forth in rows. And what I learned is best practice when you're designing something that's worked flat, especially something like a garment, it's the best practice is to round anything you do row-wise, round it to an even number so that you're back on the same size for every size. I guess I should caveat that with if it's something that's going to come in multiple sizes. If you're just doing one size, it doesn't matter. But when you go to grade garments or, make a hat in different sizes as well, if you're working flat, which you usually don't work hats flat, but that's not the point. If you're working flat, just go ahead and do yourself the favor of rounding every calculation to an even number, because I didn't do that on the for the side depth here. So this is your arm's eye, your armhole depth. I did not make that length an even number. So let's say you've got an arm's eye depth of 8 inches, and then you have 3.5 rows per inch. You times 8 by 3.5, and that tells you how many rows it's going to take to reach that depth. Sometimes that's an odd number, and if it's an odd number and you're turning back and forth, you're going to end up on a different side than you will for a size that ends on an even number. And so then all the sizes have to be split up when you write them. Or you could just round up to the nearest even number. All the sizes are on the same side after you've turned. And so that's when I realized my shoulder shaping, I think it was my shoulder. No, it wasn't. I didn't notice it on the back panel. I noticed it on the front panel. Because the front panels are mirrored. So this has a V-neck, right? Which this one, there's a whole nother story to this, right? There's only this tiny little V-neck shaping here because there was not enough room on the cardigan to actually bring in a V on this size after the armhole cut out, but that's a whole different reason. I realized when I started doing the shoulder shaping on just one side and that the armhole cutout was on one side, the smallest size, which is the size I'm making, ended on an odd number row, while all the other sizes ended on an even, which would have placed that shoulder shaping backwards from the rest. So I ended up having to add another row to the arm's eye depth of this size to make sure all the shoulder shaping started on the same row, which meant I had to redo the back panel because it was missing a row. So that's something I've learned. But I also made more additional mistakes with this design. And this is seriously the most mistakes I've ever made coming off a spreadsheet. And I think it's because I used the children's cardigan spreadsheet, and I think I skimmed through it too quickly, changing the things for the larger sizes, and I made some mistakes and I missed some things. So one of the mistakes that I made was when you're calculating a decrease slope. I've got a nice little set of figures that I can just copy and paste and change the numbers, so I don't even have to rewrite all the formulas. And one of the things that you use that for with designing garments is shaping sleeves. So actually, I did a sleeve, so I can pull that out and show you. So here is my sleeve. It's worked from the bottom up flat. So you do your chain and then you start increasing your way out all the way to the top. It gives you this nice tapered sleeve, so it's fitted all the way down. When you're calculating how many rows you have to do your shaping in, you take off ribbing if you have any ribbing. So there's a spot in the formula that says how much ribbing do you need to take off the length that you're shaping. And so for the sleeves, it's 2 inches. For the body, it's 2 inches because I'm putting 2 inches of ribbing on the bottom of both. Well, when I calculated my V-neck, which of course there's no V here. We'll get to that. We will, I promise. When I calculated my V-neck, I accidentally just popped 2 inches in because I'm like, yeah, this cardigan has 2 inches of ribbing all over. There's no ribbing in the V-neck. So my V-neck shaping was 2 inches too short. So the back panel that I showed you guys last week was 2 inches too short in the armhole depth. So I had to redo that too. And I didn't notice that until I finished the sleeves and the sleeve didn't fit in place. So hopefully I'm not going too fast so that you can follow along. But I accidentally subtracted 2 inches off the armhole depth. Didn't notice until it was too short on the V-neck side. This matches up, right? So I had to go back. I had to add 2 inches here, add 2 inches here. And how I noticed with the sleeve is because with the drop shoulder sweater, your sleeve, your upper arm sleeve circumference is 2 times your armhole depth. And so I had the right armhole depth on my sleeve, but the armhole on my fronts and backs was not long enough to fit the sleeve in. So once I found that I accidentally took 2 inches off the armhole depth, then I was able to figure out, oh, now it fits perfectly. I've got my sleeve folded in half here because this is just the back panel, right? Half of it will be sewn into the back, half of it will be sewn into the front. So it fits perfectly now, but I have one more problem. So back panel's redone and fixed. It looks great. Makes sense. I had been feeling like the armhole was a little low, or I mean a little high after I finished the back panel, because you figure this seam is going to be up here on the mid part of your shoulder, and I have a 1/4 inch seam allowance, which meaning like about that much is going to be folded in on the seam. That is a much better better fitting armhole than what I was showing last week. So back panel's done. Sleeves golden. I had to do this one 3 times because of how it's connected to the other mistakes that I made. But this is now golden and works. The front panels need to be redone. And let me see if I can show you why. I really feel like I'm throwing everything around here this morning. I will explain this and then I'll catch up in the chat with you guys because I don't want to lose my train of thought. So back panel, front panels align and they match up. So this one will go here. And this one will go here. So I finished these last night and I had been waiting to film them until my kids were asleep so I could get nice quiet tutorials that I didn't have to voice over. And once I laid these on top, I went, holy cow. Do you see that giant gap? So this is the V-neck part, right? But down here, see that giant gap? That is the space that is left over for the button band. So because this is the adult version, the button band is going to be wider than the children's version. I wanted it to be 1.5 inches wide. Originally, I was going to do 2, like 2 everywhere else, but then I realized I would need a pretty large button to look right on that width of a ribbing. So I decided to knock it down to 1.5 inches. But I didn't put it into the spreadsheet correctly because I'm looking at that and I'm like, that's not 1.5 inches. That looks more like 3 inches. It is 3 inches. So what I had done by mistake is in my spreadsheet, I write like what the row of math is for. So I understand when I click on the formula what it is most of the time. Sometimes I do too much math in one and get this really long formula and I don't really understand what's going on. That happened in my other sweater, and I'll talk about that later. But for this one, I had broken out every step of the math and explaining why, so that if I ever needed to go through it, I could figure it out. So I have this whole thing like the front panel is your full bust divided by 4 minus your seam allowance minus your button band. Well, your button band overlaps. So how much I needed to take off of one panel really only needed to be half of my button band, because they're gonna overlap each other. So you see where I'm going here? I took 1.5 inches off of each panel instead of 3/4 of an inch, which would have overlapped me at 1.5 inches. It's just a silly mistake that I put the wrong number in, and I think I was just going too fast. So what does that mean for this design? That means that I have to redo the front panels. Back panel's fine, sleeves fine, but what that width determines is it's going to change the beginning chain number at the bottom of the front panel, which is also, because there's going to be more, it's going to change the rate of decreases here at the V-neck, which is going to have more decreases for this smaller size. So it's going to look more like an actual V-neck. The other sizes besides this one have way more decreases because they're much wider in the chest, right? That's the difference in the sizes, is your full bust width. So they have more of a V-neck shaping at the bottom before they get straight. Once this one, I've already plugged the numbers in. And I have to rewrite the whole pattern. I rewrote, like, all the numbers are off now. All the rows and the numbers are off for once I changed the bottom width. It adds about 4 stitches, and you're decreasing every other row. So I'm actually going to get a lot more decreases. But at one point, I had also considered doing less of an armhole cutout, because that's taking away from how much of a V-neck decrease I could do as well. But this amount works so well for all the other sizes. And if you change this for just this size, I could. It's just going to change the numbers within it, because this armhole cutout is also equal to how many rows you work plain at a minimum, how many rows you work plain at the beginning of the top of your sleeve, because that gets sewn into that cutout. So there's just so many connecting parts that have to fit so specifically together. I did not expect this cardigan to give me this much grief, because I kind of already did it once. This is just the adult version, but I think it's because I didn't start all the formulas from scratch. I used the spreadsheet from the children's cardigan, missed some pieces, put in some wrong numbers, and then also I'm working at much greater differences in sizes. Let me catch up with you guys and see what you're saying. Oh, we got some good mornings. Good morning, Lacey. Oh my, never realized all the work. I will question pattern price again. Right. Cardigans are a lot of work. I mean, honestly, the less fitted cardigans are a lot less work, but it's still work. You still have to do all the spreadsheet and the sizing and the writing. But fitted cardigans are even more work. And the more complicated the stitch pattern, the even more complicated it gets. Oh, I do that all the time. You think something will be super easy, so you don't pay quite as much attention as you would be going into it, knowing it will be tricky. That's exactly what happened. I was like, I already designed this. Ting, 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 ting. Learn my lesson. I think from now on, it's really going to save me time if I just start from scratch and rebuild out that sizing spreadsheet from scratch, paying very special attention to everything. This is why I don't want to design. And this is why you need to pay for patterns. Exactly. Exactly. Oh my gosh, what a chain of events. Yeah, it really was an unfortunate chain of events. And, last night when I was so excited that the shaping lined up, the armholes lined up, the sleeves lined up, I'm like, yes. And then I saw that gap and I was like, no, no, why me? And it felt like a waste of time to film all that last night, right? That I have to now delete because it's wrong. But then I realized, like, even if I had put it off until later, I would have been making the same mistake. Like, it's just sunk cost of time into this design based on my lack of diligence in, like, really being careful. I meant to say I will never question pattern price again, especially not for garments. Like, sometimes, some smaller things that are really simple, you can be like, "Oh, really?" But when it comes to anything that comes in multiple sizes with stitch patterns, definitely it's worth paying for. Good morning, Lori. Good morning, VJ. Thanks for joining me this morning. Yay, I can finally chat. Hi, Ashley. I've been waiting to be a subscriber for a full hour. Yeah, I have to put the subscriber chat on a timer of being a subscriber so that we don't get trolls and spam. It's so annoying. Congrats and welcome. Yes. Welcome, welcome. My cat deleted your That's something one of my kids would do by accident. That's funny. Thank you, thank you. Oh, Catherine says she can still see her comments, so that's good. Cats are so funny. VJ, you said your cat sits on your key. Yeah, I think it's because they get a little bit of heat to them, and they also know they're in your way. It's like a power move. Um, let's see. It may have just deleted it where I can't see it on my side. It might have. Hopefully, it didn't get her in any trouble. I'm currently texting with my left hand because she's taking up my whole other side. She's trying to watch and listen, and here she comes sitting on my laptop blocking me. She demands lovin's now. You will like it here. I think so. I think you'll like it here too, Ashley. I won't question prices, but I will question the sanity of designers. Okay, I mean, to be fair, designers who have put out multiple sweaters, they're more skilled than me, right? I'm still a beginning garment designer. I've only got one sweater published. So I'm still learning a lot about sweater design and my personal flow when it comes to the math and the writing and what works best for me and all the different um, ways you can get a good fit and the different constructions. And let's be honest, I'm attracted to difficult things. I like the challenge. I don't want to just design a rectangle sweater that doesn't fit well. I want a nice design that's well fitting, and that just comes with all the extra work. So I feel like it's going to be worth it. And honestly, once all those things line up, like minus the button band being off, with the shoulder shaping and the sleeves and the armhole depth, all that lining up, and I can see the shape of the sweater and it's going to fit me beautifully. It just all of a sudden all feels worth it. And you're like, well, it wasn't that hard. No, it was. It was. The difficulty disappears behind the finished design. And yeah, I think that's why some people are like, people charge so much for their patterns, and you open it and you're like, this was easy to follow. It's not that hard. That means that they did a good job designing it. That's what I'll say. LOL, Mocha. We're all nuts. Turn into the skid. But yeah, we are nuts. Designers are nuts for sure. They look so tiny until you're trying to see around them. The cats. Decoy. Oh, that's a good idea. Decoy keyboards. Yeah, just kind of set it up. Well, I guess you probably have to put it near you though, so that you have to lead them to think that you're using it, because that's really why they're there. Ashley, it's not the keyboard, it's the screen. Look at me. I know I don't have my cats with me today. I think they went outside before I started recording. So yeah, so this is the Ice Cream Delight it's looking like it's gonna fit so much better. I'm very excited about it, just not excited to be redoing these front panels. But honestly, because I am making the smallest size, I'm thankful that it's not a lot to rip out and redo. Uh, it's gonna take me longer to rewrite out the front panels, changing all of the decrease rates and stitch counts. That will take longer than actually remaking the front panels. And then, yeah, very excited about my sleeve. It looks really good, like it's gonna fit really well. The one thing about this version, I will say, compared to the children's version, there is a deeper underarm cutout. So on the kids version, it's only 1 inch. On the adult, it's 2. And when you put the front and back together, it's double. So on the kids cardigan, it's 2 inches underarm. On the adults, it's 4, which is almost like your actual underarm width. It will be for the smaller sizes, and for the larger sizes, it's going to be closer to your actual underarm width, which is bringing these sleeves up more onto your shoulder. So it's going to be a little less like a drop shoulder, but it's not a set in sleeve because there's no sleeve cap. You're still going to be relying on the combination of the two to cover that shoulder. But that was interesting that I realized the sleeves kind of come up just a little bit higher on your arm. So I had to add a little more length into the sleeve than I did for the kids version. And then there's going to be 2 inches of ribbing once the sleeves are all done. So I'm very excited. All these markers here are the repeats because it is a tailored fit. There are, depending on the size, most sizes have 2 sets of increase rates, a faster one. We start from the bottom up. So there's a slower one and then a faster one because your arm isn't always like just one straight line of increases or decreases, depending on the way you're looking at it. So that's what my color-coded markers were for, was the couple plain rows, increase row, sets of increase and plain rows, and then they change. And then they stop and you work plain. So that's what all that is. But yeah. Oh, and I was going to mention, I frogged and recrocheted this yarn a couple times because of all these silly mistakes. And this is a single ply yarn, and it surprisingly held up to frogging and recrocheting. It was a little sticky to frog, so I did have to be careful to go slowly, so that if you go too fast, it really creates that friction and it really starts to try to felt to itself. So I went nice and slow, and then when I recrocheted, it looks fine. Honestly, I was happily surprised because it's a single ply. I thought it might struggle a little bit, but it did not. So I was excited about that, and it re-solidifies the fact that I was gonna make this into a sweater anyways, being a single ply. I felt like it had some durability to it, more than you would typically get, and it does, which also makes me think this yarn is slightly felted a little bit to give it that durability. So yeah, that's Ice Cream Delight cardigan using a Hobbii Tweed Delight and a 5mm crochet hook. So that was something I've learned and my first work in progress. I don't have any finished objects this week. I mean, I think since I last recorded, oh no, I had already finished the secret design last week. I just shipped it out this week. So yeah, I haven't finished anything this week. I've done a lot of ripping out and redoing. Let's see. Oh, Lacey, your cat is huge and fluffy. Yeah, I've seen pictures of her. She's super cute. We're really excited about the Ice Cream Delight. Thank you, Lacey. I think I had sent you the preliminary back panel, but it's a Google Doc, so it's been updated to the newest fixed version. It's a good thing you haven't started it. Hi, Marquita. Thanks for joining the live. Good call on the large underarm cutout. Yeah, I just thought it would help fit the cross back better. Like, that's the whole reason you modify a drop shoulder, is that cutout helps you fit your cross back, which is very important for helping cardigans fit better and not fall off. So shoulder shaping and that cross back fit, that's been like my key so far to making these cardigans feel like they're not going to fall off, which maybe it doesn't matter if you have broader, wider shoulders, you have more space for that cardigan to hold on. But for my size, they always fell off. There wasn't, my shoulders are just too narrow. My crossback is just too small. Everything just doesn't fit. So you might not have a problem, but I do. So hopefully it helps people that have the same fit issue that I do. Everybody's saying hi to Marquita. I was wondering about the frogging. Thanks for letting us know. Yeah, it was a little sticky, but it stood the test of time. I think I actually have a ball that's been frogged in here too, so I can show you what it looks like frogged but not reworked. I mean, it looks just like the original. Maybe slightly fuzzier, but I mean, it's fine. I think this was part of the shoulder shaping that I had originally had. Sometimes when I get fuzzy, if I just cover my eyes, it fixes it. I found the hack to my camera, I think. I was worrying about your single ply and the frogging, but it's really good to know about the yarn. It's a bonus. And it's a nice little test that it's going to stand up well over time as a cardigan. You really need to film the entire process. People need to see what goes into this. Plus, it might make for a funny documentary, sort of. I think so too, Mocha. I did the one video, it's kind of a while ago on my channel, where I got my first design published, and I kind of vlogged the whole process. And so, yeah, I think I should probably start doing something more like that. I would need to be more diligent about like actually vlogging it and then saving those videos into a file to be edited into a larger video later. That's the hardest part about vlogging something that takes you several months, is being diligent about organizing your files, like remembering to film it and then remembering to organize it so you don't lose pieces of it. I'm really new to wearables. I just started making my first hat, so congrats. This has all been very technical so far. Yeah, sorry. It's it's probably a bit much for people who haven't even made their first garment. I didn't even consider that. So yeah, if it glosses over, let it go, and just focus on one step of progression at a time. Hats are a good place to start for fit, and then once you get more comfortable to adventure into like actual garments like sweaters and cardigans and things like that, you'll get the feel. Just try to start with more basic things, and then you'll see you'll start to get a hang of the process, and then you can start finding more fitted, more difficult things. Oh, cool. Oh, I started it already. I'm in row 21, maybe. Oh, well, you're fine on that, on the back panel, because the changes I made weren't until after the underarm, and I've already made those in your document. Because I think the document I sent you has all, just don't start the front panels yet. Those ones aren't fixed. Good morning, Lindsay. Oh, no way, dude. I have broad shoulders and they always fall off. So yeah, it's probably also a lot to do with that cross back and shoulder shaping. I have an appointment to go file taxes. Oh my gosh. Have fun with that. I'll catch you later, Marquita. Thanks for stopping by, and have a great weekend. I've learned so much from Amanda about patterns and design, and Mocha too. Yeah, Mocha, I love watching her channel as well. And Lacey has a channel now too, which is linked down below. I was going to talk about that and check it out, but since we're talking about people with channels, and I know Mocha mentioned it on her channel too, but yeah, Lacey finally started her YouTube channel and she's got a quick short video out. So if you're interested after the live, you can check it out. I've got it linked under the check it out down below. They're super smart ladies. Oh, thanks, Lacey. Sometimes I question that though. Super smart, insane, a little of both. Yeah, right. I hope you make it out good too. Sometimes taxes can be a good experience, but usually not. Yeah, right, Estella. Fingers crossed for a big return. Oh, and Ashley, you can totally reach out to me if you have any questions about wearables. If I know, I will answer, or if I don't, I can help you find the answer if you're interested. Yes, Lacey is a very good wealth of knowledge. And you're welcome, Lacey. I watched her first video and subscribed. It's a fun little what's in my bag video. So I think you guys will enjoy it. Add it to my watch later. Yay! And I'm going to do another video soon. Oh, good. I'm excited, Lacey. I think you did great for your first video, way better than my first video. So congratulations on starting your channel. So my other work in progress is my other cardigan. And this is the other thing I realized last night, guys. I probably shouldn't be designing 2 sweaters at the same time. That might be part of my frustration and the fact that I made so many mistakes on the Ice Cream Delight cardigan, because I'm also working on another cardigan. So this is the Everyday Swing cardigan that uses Stardust Fiber Studio Delphinus Sport Weight. And this is in the Pumpkin Queen colorway, which was dyed based on my favorite color. And the colorway is exclusive to the new Knittery, a yarn shop that I work at from home very, very part-time. So I ordered my 3 new hanks. They all came in. I'm going to be honest. I'm a little disappointed that they're so different. And like that happens. That happens with hand-dyed yarns between dye lots. They can drastically change just because of the nature of the way that they're dyed. And my 3 new skeins were very drastic. They're very, very light compared to the original 6 that I ordered, which is why you should order in the full quantity that you need. But I just underestimated how much yarn I would need and found myself ordering more. I ordered 3 more because that's way more than I need, but I was hoping that I might be able to get one of the 3 closer to the colorway that I already had, the dye lot that I already had. No, these are very light, and this one actually has some white spots in it and the other ones don't. So I'm not going to use this one in the cardigan at all, which I won't need it. So that's fine. But I wound up these 2 and they don't have any white spots, but they do have some very, very light, especially you can see in this one, some very, very light, almost white, yellowish spots, which none of my original hanks had. So I had been saving this one because it was the darkest from the first batch and stood out the most. And I was hoping I wouldn't have to use this one if the new colorways came in and matched better. But this actually matches better than the new ones. So I had to reintroduce this darker one into my sleeve. It's not the worst thing in the world. Oh yeah, I don't have any yarn attached because I finished one of my one sleeves. So let's show, go ahead. Well, I'll show you and then I'll put it on and show you again. So here's the cardigan. Do you see the extra dark spots that came in when I joined the new darker color? And then I decided to do the ribbing on the sleeve in the darker color versus the lighter color. I don't know why. Just sounded like a good idea to me. I do like the way it turned out. Overall, is it a very strong notice? Kind of. Like you might notice like, hey, it's like there's some more darker spots at the bottom of your sleeves, because I do have enough yarn to finish this sleeve with the same 2 colors, right? I'm changing yarn every 2 rows, striping 2 hanks every 2 rows to try to blend those colors together. So I do have these same 2 hanks that I can stripe so that the sleeves will match from that same point on both sides. So at least there will be that amount of cohesiveness to it. I just thought going with the darker hank would look better than had I used the one that has like the white spots in it. And since these 2 are so close together, I'm going to use them for the front band because I think I'm going to need more than one cake to get through the whole front band. So I'm going to try with the one that has the darker one. And then if I run out, I'll go to the lighter one. But had I not done it this way and I used the dark on the button band or the front band and then didn't have enough, I'd be switching to that really light color. So this was the best possible option for me. So let me show you what it's looking like though. Thankfully, no, there was one small issue with this one. For whatever reason, my calculations on the sleeves were about 2 inches too short. After I finished my decreases and then started the applied slip stitch ribbing, I realized, oh wow, I'm like 2 inches too short. So what I did is, and I have markers here. After I finished my last decrease, I just worked plain for 2 inches so that I didn't have to redo all of the decreases and the rate of decreases. So I did go ahead and write that into the pattern that all sleeves have 2 inches of plain sleeve, with a little note that's like, repeat those 2 rows for 2 inches or until 2 inches, 2.5 inches before desired sleeve length, because the ribbing on this cardigan is 2.5 inches. 2.5 inches on the bottom, 2.5 inches on the sleeve, and then the front band is going to be, I literally just typed this into my spreadsheet last night, 5.5 or 6 inches wide. So, I mean, we're talking like boom, right? So this is Everyday Swing Cardigan. It's a modified top-down raglan, meaning, and it's seamless. So this is all worked in one piece. You start at the neck. You've got your 4 increase locations. Well, technically 6 because you're also increasing in the front. And you change the rate of increases to contour what you want your fronts to be, what you want your backs to be, and what you want your sleeves to be. And then the front panels continue increasing massively. Oh, and this is something I ran into. So interestingly enough, for this design, I wanted the front panel to actually be, excuse me, I wanted it to be the full width of the front, like half of your bust in the front. So for the smallest size, this front panel is the full width, just for one size. Same on this size, right? But and I wanted to keep the rate of increasing on the front panels the same, so I didn't have to separate the sizes. So that means for the 3 larger sizes, you don't quite get as much of a front panel. It doesn't come across your whole front. Depending on the size, it's about 2 to 5 inches narrower. But I think because there's so much of a front band, it's not going to be a big deal. And it's actually going to save you on yarn quite a bit, because on the larger sizes, by the time you get to the part of the cardigan where you're working both fronts and the back, it's very wide and every row takes a lot of yarn. So being able to stop some of those increases, it actually saves you on yarn. So the only issue I have with this cardigan at this point, which isn't a lot because it's working out really well, I officially wrote out the whole busts, like the top to the underarm cutout for all the sizes. I did have some issues writing it out because the numbers weren't working. And that's because in my formulas, when I dragged them over, there were some zeros popped in, which the formulas did not like. And so they were projecting incorrect numbers. So I had to go in and fix those for the larger sizes. So I found that problem. And then when I was writing it out, my stitch count was off for just one size. All of the other ones were working. So I have my spreadsheet that pops out my numbers. And then when I write it, I also manually double check from row to row based on what increases are written in the row and what stitch counts are at the end of the row. And all the sizes were working except for one. And I was like, I could not figure it out. And I had written these blocks of equations to cut out steps of the math. And I couldn't figure out my spreadsheet was already so long that I'd have to like scroll up and see, okay, it was this number plus that number divided by 2 plus 4. Why did I add 4? It was a whole thing. All to find out that the number was off because when I wrote it, I just wrote the wrong row number. Like I went from row 33 to row 32 instead of 34. And that when I was manually doing the math through the written pattern, my row counts threw off the stitch counts. And once I found that tiny mistake, then I was like, oh, the numbers do work for that size after all. So I did have a little bit of a kink that took me a couple hours to just in the writing process. But as far as making this, I only had to rip it out that one time way back when I made a mistake with the front panels. So, the only other thing that's been bothering me about this cardigan is the seam on the sleeves. So I mentioned in an older episode that this is half double crochet, and cardigans are worked flat for the body, but the sleeves are worked in the round, and half double crochet looks differently worked flat versus in the round. So this is the half double crochet worked flat. This is actually half double crochet worked regular one row, and then in the second and third loop in the following row to mimic the texture that you get from making half double crochet flat, because when you turn, that third loop comes to the front every other row. So that joins that together. But when you're doing something like that in the round, you have a seam, because some rows have the front loop exposed and some rows don't. Normally, when I'm working in the round, I don't slip stitch to join, and I just continually work in the round, and that will eliminate any seam. But I was doing that with this textured pattern, and I was still getting, that jog of where it was plain and then the front loop exposed, plain, front loop exposed. So I thought, well, if I go ahead and here's my seam. If I go ahead and slip stitch to join, that will pull the texture together more, right? But then I do have that chain one, that slip stitch chain one kind of bump happening that creates that seam, and it's moving. It moves across my arm. I was hoping it would stay under my arm all the way down, but as you can see, it moves all the way here. And I don't know what to do about that. I have to go look up hacks for keeping my seam under my arm. I honestly, I don't know how to do that. I've never done any sort of seam management. Like I said, I just don't slip stitch to join and just don't have a seam. But I can't do that with this textured stitch pattern. So do you have any advice on how to keep that seam from moving? There are decreases for most of the sleeve, and I was centering them on the seam, and then I realized if I don't center them on the seam and I place them at the beginning, that's going to help lean the seam to the left, but eventually that stops. So we'll see. Let's see. Oh, no, I already saw that one. Thanks, Maud. I fall in love that yarn more and more every time I see it. Yeah, it is a gorgeous colorway. I will say that. And I'm very excited to have this cardigan. They're really a lot lighter. Yeah, like I said, I was disappointed, especially I opened them all up. And when I caked the first two, and then I didn't even bother caking this one because it literally has white spots in it. So I can't use this at all. So we'll see. Sorry, I can hear Annie crying, and I'm like, do I need to go check on her? She's with her dad, so I think everything's fine. But yeah, there's white spots in here. And I don't know. I can't pull myself to use it. So I can use it in another project. There's nothing wrong with the hank. It's just that it's just not going to fit in with this sweater whatsoever. I'm going to go check on Annie, if you guys don't mind. Let me figure out. All right, I think I'm back. Can you guys hear me okay? We should be good to go. Everything's good to go. I just wanted to make sure everything was going fine. So yeah, so the white spot, I can't use this in this cardigan, but I should be able to use it in another project later. So, if you had not been so far into the pattern, you could do an ombre. Exactly. And that's why you're supposed to get all the yarn you need all at once. I could have planned for that. I just accidentally didn't plan for enough yarn. It could also make for some cool stepping on the sleeves, light, dark, light, dark. Exactly, yeah. Oh, I don't notice it, at least not through the camera. I feel like the camera's picking the colors up pretty accurately, so if you don't notice it on the camera, you probably wouldn't notice it in real life either. It's weird, I can see the lightness in the cake drastically, but when it's worked up, I couldn't see a difference. Yeah, it does. Well, and that's because I'm striping the 2 different skeins at a time, so it blends a little bit more smoothly than had I just, like, used a cake and then joined a new cake. There would be a very harsh line there. That fit is so good, thank you. Yes, this is very comfortable and cozy. The sleeve is just a little too short, but this is superwash yarn, and I do expect it to grow. So, if it doesn't grow, I'm comfortable with this length because it only does that pull up when I reach my arm out. When it's down, it's the perfect length. So, if it grows a little bit, perfect. If it grows a lot, I can still live with it, and if it doesn't grow at all, I can still live with it too. So, but I really do think it will grow. I see the sleeves are a bit darker, but I think most people won't notice. They'll mostly look at the body of the cardigan. I think using the lighter cake for the button band sounds like a good idea. Yeah, I think exactly the same. I think that's the best way to go about it, and hopefully it does work. Have you thought about doing the sleeves flat, then seaming them after? So we talked about this before, and I really considering it now because that will keep the seam at the underarm. The only thing is that the whole appeal to a seamless sweater is that it's seamless, and that would be creating a seam. Um, so I don't know if I'm going to add a note. I don't know. I really need to think about it. What do you think about the seam traveling up the arm? Does it bother you? Does it not bother you? It bothers me. Like it does. It bothers me. I wouldn't mind it if it was all straight under the arm, but it's not. It starts curving to the front of the arm. I crocheted a sweater and we turned every row. So that kept your seam straight? Every row. Maybe that's really what I need to do, and if I do it like that, then, I won't have to do this second and third loop thing. Um, I honestly would have turned that yarn if I saw those big white spots. Yeah. Yeah, it's not what I was expecting at all, and I don't even think, like, I don't it's all on the inside, so they may not if the dyers were busy enough, they might not have even noticed it that happened, honestly. Oh dear, I think you could probably send that one back. Right. Uh, I hear my grandbaby, she needs a grandma. Yeah, she's okay. I checked on her and she's fine. She's just being fussy. You can totally go check on Annie. Yeah, she's with dad. He works night shift, and I just wanted to make sure he didn't fall asleep with her, and she's just in there screaming. Um, Go, go, go. Yeah, thank you guys for being patient with me. So friends, who all here has ever made a cardigan? Is the baby okay? Yes, she is okay. I'm still halfway my first sweater, which was a bit of a disaster. Oh no. Working on it, the fit, what was the disaster? Um, VJ says, not me. I have made a couple sweaters, but no open front cardigans yet. Super excited to make one. It is a goal for me this year to make a few. I'm planning to make the elf coat by Moral Fiber this year, though. Ooh, I haven't seen that one yet. Hello, Mando. Hello, Steve. Personally, the seam bothers me a bit. Yeah, right? It bothers me too. So I have to figure out what to do about that. I really don't want to have to rip it out, but it's something I don't want to keep in the pattern for sure. I might keep it on my personal sweater, but because I mean, like on my personal sweater, I can kind of like turn it and then it's not as bad. But in the actual pattern, I don't want that happening to everybody's sweater. You could do a single crochet seam or a slip stitch seam. I find that to be so much enjoyable than sewing seams. That's true. That's actually not a bad option. Turning after each row in the round keeps the seam straight. Then that's it. That's what I'm going to have to do. So then that will fix the sleeve so that it's not in the back loop and third loop too, because you're turning. So it'll keep the half double crochet the same. So I think I'm going to finish my sweater the way that it is right now, but when I make the second sample for the tutorial, I'll do the turning. Because when you're still joining, but you're turning afterwards, right? You join the round and then you work back the other direction. I wouldn't mind doing a seam. I don't mind seams either, but I know some people that see a sweater, like my Ice Cream Delight cardigan, some people will see that it's seamed and go, no, next. Yes, it kept the seam straight. Kind of a pain, but it kept the seam under. That's good to know. I've actually knit a few sweaters, but never an open cardigan. Yeah, you haven't, have you? I mostly only make cardigans. I've made more cardigans than pullovers, but they were all knit. I think I only ever made one crochet cardigan, but it was an unusual construction. It was I did it incorrectly. It was actually technically my very first garment design. It has this beautiful mandala in the lower back. It's called the stained glass mandala vest. It's got a gorgeous mandala on the lower back, and then you do short rows and come up the side and shape your cross back. And then you end up chaining armholes and working around the whole thing. But then for sleeves for that, you would really need to do a sleeve with a sleeve cap. And I didn't know how to do that back then. I just crocheted sleeves onto it, which is why it never came out as a sweater. It came out as a vest because I did the sleeves incorrectly on my personal design. Turning yarn after each row might be okay, but need to balance increases or you join line would curve. Yeah, I mean, at least with the turning, if that on its own keeps the seam straight, I would put the decreases the same way that I had them originally, which was like, if this is the seam, it's one stitch and then your decrease, and seam, one stitch and then your decrease. So they're centered on what would be your turning seam. I gotta say, I wanted to jump through the computer and grab her up and rock her. She's such a precious, squishy, precious baby. She really is. She's probably fallen asleep by now because she's absolutely quiet again. The yarn for the sweater was way stretchier than I expected, so it was okay when I was making it, but as soon as my husband tried it on, the neckline was halfway down to his belly. Oh my gosh, that's so bad. Oh, I take it was a V-neck then. I have done the seam different, alternating the increase or decrease when going through at the beginning and then at the ending of the row. Oh, yeah, I could see that working, whether you're doing it at the beginning and then at the end. For this one, I originally was doing it on both sides and it still turned and it was going to the right. And that's why I started later. I started doing both of the decreases for the row after the beginning of the row. And it helped straighten it up a little bit, but it still was curving. So Kim says, yes, join, turn, next round. Okay, well, I'm going to give that a go. You know what? I might rip out my sleeves. Why not, you guys? Why not? It's really not that much work. And this is why I leave all my ends hanging out too. And I mentioned that last week with the Ice Cream Delight. Even though I had finished the back panel, I didn't weave in my ends because you never know. And inevitably, I had to rip it out. And it's easy when you leave your ends hanging out to rip out. So you know what? Maybe that's what my focus this week will be on is redoing the sleeves. A cardigan is next for me. I've made sweaters and vests. Yay! I will do seams if I need to, but usually I slip stitch instead with crochet hook. It doesn't prevent me from buying a pattern, but no seam description would definitely draw me to a pattern. Right, it is definitely an appeal. And top down, well, so that's the other benefit to it not being seamed and that it's being top down is that you can try it on as you go. So you don't have to make the whole cardigan just to find out it doesn't fit. You can get past the underarm and go, ooh, I don't like that, and change it if you need to. It also keeps the increases from being as noticeable. It takes away the spiraling effect. Okay, well then this sounds like exactly what I needed to fix the sleeve the whole time, and I just didn't know it yet. I was intimidated by seaming until I learned how to do it. So adding a video on seaming to your tutorial would mitigate that, I think. I agree. And that's why I have the seaming tutorial with the children's cardigan. That's the children's version of the tweed, the white tweed one I'm working on. And there will be a tutorial for that one too, because yeah, I do think the mattress stitch sounds intimidating, but once you see it done, and once you start doing it, it's really not that hard at all. I can hardly get through a shawl, much less a sweater. You will make a sweater one day, Lori. I know. I just know it. I just know it. Yes, it was a V-neck. I haven't touched it in 6 months. I felt so defeated. I just needed to do some single crochet togethers to pull it all in and redo my ribbing on the neckline. Don't feel bad. You see me. I halfway know what I'm doing and still make giant, massive mistakes. So don't feel so bad. Oh yeah, that's totally why I don't weave in my in-swing link. If I was following someone else's design, I would have woven in those ends after I finished the back panel, just so that it wasn't saved all for the end. I literally have to force myself to not, because I wanted to, because it's tidier for photos too. And like to show off to you guys, it's tinier too. LO Lacey, LO the mattress stitch. It's so cool when you pull it together, right? It's like a little zipper, and it's invisible, and it looks great. All right, so that is my progress on the everyday swing cardigan, which apparently I have to rip out, but look at how good it looks. Oh, it looks so good. It fits so good. And once that front ribbing's on here too, oh, it's really going to be the cardigan of my dreams. Let me just rip out that sleeve and fix that seam. So much ripping out when you're a designer. And like, here I am thinking like, oh, I figured out how to do the math. I figured out how to write the pattern before I make it. I won't be ripping out as much. That was a lie. That was a lie to myself. All right, so moving on to check it out. I ordered some yarn. So I told you guys that I want to make a second sample of the everyday swing cardigan out of a more affordable yarn. So I decided to go check out what Knit Picks and We Crochet had to offer. And I came across Brava Sport. So Brava Sport is a sport weight yarn, 340 yards per 100 grams. This is the Dove Heather colorway. This is 100% premium acrylic sport weight yarn. And I got a couple colors to see, a couple colors that I thought I would want my cardigan out of, because you know that I just keep making cardigans for myself. You can never have too many cardigans. So out of the Brava Sport, I grabbed this gorgeous Dove Heather, and then I also grabbed Dublin. And as much as I love Dublin, and I would actually prefer the sweater out of this color, if I choose Brava, I have to go with the Dove Heather, or the Brava Sport. I have to go with this one so that it will show up on camera. The whole point of the second cardigan is to film the tutorial, because I'm not going back and starting over with that one. So if I end up going with this one, I'm going to have to go with the lighter color, but how gorgeous would the cardigan be in the dark color? I just love this dark green. It's Dublin. That's what I said. So I've never worked with Brava or Brava Sport before, but I will say, oh, I got something on the yarn. It's incredibly soft. It's like, I don't know, like the labels here, but it passes the squish test for me. It doesn't feel like it's going to pill very easily. So I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the feel and the look of the acrylic. I haven't swatched it up yet, so I don't know how it's going to behave in a half double crochet swatch. I don't know that I'm going to be able to meet gauge for my pattern yet, which is why I chose another option as well. But this one was just under $4 per ball, which is the same price as the other yarn that I grabbed in similar colors, which was Wool of the Andes. Now, do you see the difference between the two? They were both just under $4 per ball, but this is 100 grams and this is 50. So the Wool of the Andes Sport is twice as expensive as the Brava Sport, but both of these are still considerably less than the hand-dyed yarn, which is my whole point, is to find another yarn that works, that is at a much lower price point to make the cardigan. So the Wool of the Andes Sport is 100% Peruvian Highland wool. It's also a sport weight. you're looking at 137 yards per 50 grams, which when you add that up puts you at what, like 274 or yeah, 274 per 100. So it's not quite as many yardage, but it's still going to work up to the same gauge. Both of these yarns recommended. Does it have the millimeter on here? Oh, this one just recommends an E7. There's no millimeter on here. But anyways, both of these should be able to work up to my stitch gauge for that everyday swing cardigan. We'll see once I swatch. I wasn't sure which color I would like for the wool of the Andes, so I grabbed 3 different colors of this one just to see. I thought I would love it in this nice gray here, which is, it doesn't have a name like the Brava. It just, oh no, it is Dove Heather. So it's Dove Heather. This is the same colorway, but on the wool versus the acrylic. Pretty similar. The wool has a little more of a yellow undertone, I think. So this is Dove Heather. And then the green is Aurora Heather. So this is a much darker green than the Brava Sport. So Dublin, Aurora Heather. I really like this color. I think out of all of them, this one's my favorite. It's a very dark, yet if the light recorrects, it's a very rich color. Actually, I think putting it next to the other green really showed it off. It's dark, but it's a very rich dark green. And so if I wasn't making a tutorial, I think, depending on how the swatches turned out, I think this is the one I would go with because I really see myself wearing this one. But the blue is really nice as well. It's a very deep blue. And because of my blue eyes, I know that I can typically get away with a nice blue color. It looks really good. This one is Solstice Heather. Just a beautiful, deep, dark blue. I wouldn't quite call it a navy because it's a little lighter than what I would call a navy blue, a little brighter. And then, yeah, the Dove Heather. So I got these 3 Wool of the Andes colors and these 2 Bravas, and they're all sport weight. So Wool of the Andes Sport, Brava Sport, 100% acrylic, 100% wool. The wool is, I would say, like a medium coarseness wool. It's not like your super fine merino. And does it say? Yeah, I mean, it's non-super wash, so it's nice and natural, and it's going to have that kind of crunchiness to it, which makes really good sweaters. So I could see myself, it's next to Skin Soft for me, no prickling at all, but still not quite as soft as a super fine merino. But yeah, I still think it would make a great sweater, and it's coming in at just under $8 per 100 grams. So a more affordable option of wool. So I'm going to swatch. I'm going to swatch and see. Unfortunately, I can tell you I'm not going to be able to use, I could probably use this green actually for a tutorial, but I'm not going to be able to use, definitely not this one. And this one would become questionable for a tutorial. So I'm stuck to either the Dove Heathers or possibly this Dublin green. So I'm going to swatch these and see how the swatches drape, see how the gauge comes out, and see if I can meet gauge. And then I'll be using one of these yarns for the tutorial on the Everyday Swing Cardigan. Have you guys used Brava Sport or Wool of the Andes Sport? Okay. A week of frogging. I mean, at this point, it's going to be 2 weeks of frogging, right? Because I've already frogged so much on that Ice Cream Delight cardigan. But once it's fixed and correct, it's going to be so worth it. And then you guys don't have to worry about it if you make the pattern. I've already done all the hard, messed up parts for you, and you get to just breeze through it. Hopefully. I mean, I still got to get it through testing. And then who knows what's going to show up in testing. That green is striking. Oh, yes. This is the one I showed first. So I really love these kind of greens, and I love wearing these kind of greens as well. Oh, good. I need your opinion on this. I hear some people rave about the Brava, then others say it's just overpriced acrylic. I need to know if it is worth the median price point. I mean, I'm I'm like fairly confident I paid just under $4 for a ball. Is that expensive for acrylic? I felt like that was a deal for how this feels. Um, so I mean, I feel like, and this is a sport weight, so I don't know about the worsted, but like I feel like it's a good acrylic based on a lot of the acrylics that I've felt. Catherine loves Wool of the Andes. Yeah, I've never worked with it at all. Not the worsted, not the sport. So you've worked with the worsted. I have a feeling it's probably going to be very similar because they're most likely using the same source. So it's really going to be thinness versus thickness. That's a 3.5 millimeter, right? Mocha, I don't know. I don't know. I forget the letter to millimeter combinations, but that sounds about right. And my pattern calls for a 4, so it should work. I think wool of the Andes would look really cool, still more high end to use wool than acrylic and more comfortable. And that's just it. It is still more expensive. Um, but I could also mention too, if I don't use the acrylic, I could swatch and mention you can get gauge with the acrylic, even if I don't end up using the acrylic. But then if I do that, I also don't know how it's going to wear and drape, which is important. It's going to wear and drape differently than the superwash or the non-superwash wools. I love the greens. You know, those are going to be my favorites. Yep, you and my son, secret favorite color. I love the underlying blue on the Wool of the Andes green. Yeah, the Aurora Heather. It does. It has this like secret blue going on in there. I knitted a Gansey blanket with Wool of the Andes, and our elderly cat claimed it. Oh, I could see that. My cats would definitely love this yarn too. It's definitely one I'm not going to be able to leave out. I made a sweater out of Wool of the Andes. Worsted, it was too itchy on my shoulders, and I can't wear it. Oh no, that is horrible. I wonder if maybe they've stepped up their game for the wool that they're using. How long ago was that? Because I've heard the same thing about Wool of the Andes, and maybe it's just in skein form. Maybe once I actually knit it up, it might feel different. But this is still softer than the fennel yarn, the Icelandic wool that I use to make Annie's sweater. So that's what I would consider like very rustic, crunchy wool, the fennel yarn, and this is softer than the fennel yarn. I've used Brava. I don't have any bad memories of it, so I guess I liked it. I mean, maybe that's a really great review, like super average acrylic. Yeah, I'm with Mod. Oh no, nothing's worse than making a sweater and not being able to wear it, especially even if it fits. That's even worse. Like, oh, I did it. I conquered the fit, and I can't wear it because I don't like the way it feels. Green is for me all the way. Yeah, I feel like this one is more your green, Lori. I definitely could see you with that one. I heard Wool of the Andes was itchy too, but it looks soft and not so rustic here. Yeah, that's what I've heard too. So I'll be curious to swatch it and block it. Which reminds me, you guys, I was cracking up last night because I was on TikTok and someone was talking about they're crocheting for so long that they have to put a Band-Aid on their finger where the yarn rubs because it's like hurting their skin. And I just kept thinking, it might be the yarn you're using. Your yarn might be just a little too scratchy. That was a DLI. It felt fine on my hands, was only itchy when I wore it, unfortunately. Well, gosh, how many years ago was that? That was over 10 years ago, Lindsay. It could have changed, but it might not. You don't know. We really don't know. I heard Brava has lots of knots in it, so I've been afraid to try it. Love Premier Anti-Pilling. Okay, there is Premier Anti-Pilling at my Ben Franklin Crafts, and every time I go there, I keep like wanting to buy it. It's a little shiny. Like, I'm not a big fan of like Karen Simply Soft because of how shiny it is. And the Premier Anti-Pilling, it does have that bit of sheen to it, which has stopped me from buying it, but it is so soft. Unbelievably soft. And Stylecraft DK, I haven't tried yet. I think everyone's itchy scale is different. It absolutely is, which is why I try to like explain that I don't have any wool sensitivities and I can wear even the scratchiest of wools. But Alpaca is the one that gets me sometimes. If it's an alpaca that hasn't really been de-haired very well and some of those guard hairs get through, that prickle factor gets to me. It'll be soft and then you wear it and you're like, ugh, what is that? That only happens sometimes to me with certain alpacas, alpaca blend or alpaca yarn. And yeah, that's the one that gets me. Lindsay, damn it. Yeah. So Brava, would you say it's better than like Lion Brand or Premier? So I haven't worked with Premier acrylic. Is it better than Lion Brand acrylic? Some of them, yes. Like I have Lion Brand Mandala, and this feels better than that. But I know that's not everybody's favorite. Vanna's Choice, I would say about on par. Yeah, I would liken it to like a Vanna's Choice. 10 years, yikes. Yeah, we're getting old, Lindsay. Red Heart Super Saver cut into my fingers, and oh, I know this one. Shawl in a Ball freaks out my fingers too. Yes, so that's what I think they were using Red Heart Super Saver in the video, and it's just like, oh man, just for a couple dollars more, you could not have to wear a Band-Aid. And I have wanted to know if Premier Anti-Pilling is softer than just yarn. I mean, the Premier Anti-Pilling that I touched in the store was incredibly super soft. Like, yes. The answer in my experience so far has been yes, but I haven't actually worked with it. I haven't made anything with it. I haven't swatched it, nothing. All right, so that was all the yarn that I got to make my video sample of the Everyday Swing cardigan. And then I bought a mystery box. So I bought the Get Schwifty box. Actually, let me see if I can hide my address because it says on the box. Get Schwifty. The Get Schwifty box from Sinful Yarns. So this is a Rick and Morty inspired yarn box. And it came with this awesome bag full of goodies. So inside the little goodie bag, there's some apple cider and some stickers and some stitch markers. Let me dump this out in my lap. This bag is like really thick and durable. I have no idea what I'm going to use it for because it's still a paper bag, but it's a more durable paper bag. So it came with this sticker. And this sticker. And then it came with 2 stitch markers. And I think this is a box they're doing every month. I thought it was a one-time box, but then I saw on Instagram they were promoting the following month's Get Schwifty box. So I don't know if they're doing it every month. So there's Sinful. I don't know if that will focus. Sinful Yarns. No? Well, it's just there a little bit. It's a little gray stitch marker that says Sinful Yarns in their logo font. And then there's another... Oh, there's another stitch marker that's like an iridescent clear with Rick's face on it. And so these would be just for knitting. They're closed. Well, they're like the coil ring, like I don't know what the specific name of it is, but it coils. Okay, camera. It coils around a couple times. It's not just a jump ring. But it is closed, and I don't think you'd be able to use this for crochet unless you added a lobster clasp to it or one of those earring lever back clasps. But you could use these for knitting, but it'd be kind of small because I don't think you could fit anything bigger than maybe a 6mm knitting needle through here. But because it's got that key ring style at the top, you could easily add this to the zipper pulls on any zipper pull bags or anything else that has zippers. And then it came with yarn. And this yarn is wild. Absolutely wild. I'm gonna put everything back together. Oh, and this was for January, by the way, I think. But it like I got it weeks and weeks ago, so I'm not worried about spoiling it. And there's a little card in here that says, "Thank you so much for your purchase and supporting our small business. We're excited to see your finished project and hope you share it for everyone to see. We look forward to growing with you. Sinful Yarns, Alaska and JD." And here's the yarn. How wild is this? It matches the bag so well. So well. The blues and the greens and the pops of red. So this is called the Neutrino Bomb. And this is a DK weight, 100% superwash merino wool, 231 yards and 100 grams. So this yarn is so wild that I don't think I could ever use it on its own, but I think it would pair very well with white. Oh, this is pretty. I wasn't expecting that. So it's a space dyed yarn where it's about half the yarn, half the hank here is green and half is blue with these red speckles, which the red turned purple on the blue side. So you are going to get a pooling yarn, or if your circumference is small enough, you could actually get like micro striping going on. Since this is DK weight, I don't think I'd be making anything small enough to get micro stripes. Unless I did fingerless mitts, that could be pretty cool. But I'm thinking striping this with white would really break up how bright that is and still look really nice. I do really like to use variegated or pooling yarns with solid colors. And pretty good contrasting solid colors at that. So I didn't put enough twist in it to hank it back up the same, but you get the idea. But yeah, that was a really fun box that I got, like I said, a couple weeks ago, and then I just forgot to share it. And this is my second time ordering from Sinful Yarns. I ordered some of their Halloween yarn back around Halloween that is same DK weight base and kind of the same style. It was grays with like some speckles of like a purpley blue over the top. I just haven't worked with it yet. Let's see. Mocha says, love Premier. Premier anti-pilling is awesome. Yeah, I'm assuming so. I just haven't worked with it yet. Ashley says, I love Lion Brand Basic Stitch. I forgot about that one. I have Basic Stitch. I think Brava's better than Basic Stitch. It's softer than Basic Stitch. But it is more expensive, I think. I made a huge corner to corner out of skein tones. Ooh, that sounds pretty. Why do people put themselves through it with Mary Maxim and Hirschner's has an economy yarn that is cheaper. I think it's so much softer. I think it has to do with like Red Heart is at basically every big box store and Walmart, and a lot of people have accessibility to Walmart, and I think it's the cheapest yarn there. I think that's why. So if you're on a budget and like if you've never been to a yarn shop or you don't go to craft stores and you just are shopping at Walmart, that seems like the yarn to get. I would assume. I like Hirschner's acrylic too. I've worked with Hirschner's acrylic. Their Halloween with the sparkle in it. I think the Brava's softer than that too. Not that it wasn't soft though. I didn't not like making I made a witch hat with it. I didn't dislike that. I just think that the Brava is softer and it feels like it's going to drape better too. Some people go with what they know and are afraid to branch out because of cost. That too. Yes, that is the one I want to try too. People love that one or Premier Anti-Pill for their acrylic go-to, and I'm trying to find an acrylic like that. I think the Premier Anti-Pilling would be a good place to try, and I'll give more of an input on the Brava once I swatch it up, probably next week. That's so cool. You're probably talking about the box. Mocha, I reckon, but she bled. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if she bled, but she had to protect her finger. Battle Scars, badge of honor. Well, yeah, and in the video it was funny because she's like, most people would just take it as a sign that you're crocheting too much, and she was like, not me. I'm going to fix this problem with a Band-Aid. I have never even seen Rick and Morty. I hadn't either until my partner got me watching it, and it's pretty funny. I enjoyed it. Or I have enjoyed the episodes that I've seen. Um, Fun yarn, right? Oh, I love that yarn. I love that yarn. Isn't it just like Lori says weaving project. Ooh, that would be so pretty. As the weft, like a white warp with this is the weft, or yeah, because I really feel like black is another great contrast, but I feel like black would tone this down too much, whereas white would help it pop. Yeah, that would be gorgeous. First off, I feel like our names are like twins, Lacey and Stacy. Oh, Horton and Hortner. Oh my god, I didn't even catch that. Yeah, you guys are named twins. Worsted 8. Yes, that's what the Hirschner's yarn. I used their Hirschner's Worsted 8 in the Halloween. That's right. I love that yarn, and I want it to be a hat. I would still have to like white brim it, like I don't know. Oh, that would make an awesome middle panel for a shawl. Ooh, yeah, like nice and variegated right in the front. I actually made a shawl in kind of similar colors. It was a deep, there's no speckles. It was a deeper green and a deeper blue and a gray and it was a side to side knit shawl. I really liked the way the colors turned out, but it was a one skein shawl. And as we all know, even with knitting, one skein of fingering weight is not enough for a shawl. It's too small to wear. I agree, Lacey. Yeah, I agree too. It would make such a cool musselberg. Yeah, how's your musselberg going? Striping it with white on one side, then color blocks with the, oh, I think you're on to something. This is DK weight though, not fingering, but still, that would be nice. And with it being doubled, I would just like stripe this with white for one half of the hat and then do all white for the other half so it's reversible. That would be so cool. I think the Rick and Morty yarn would even look good with it. Oh, yeah. Actually, that would look very classy, I think. A nice, dark, deep chocolate brown. The colors remind me a bit of Earth Globe colors. They do. Yeah, like a bloody Earth. No, the Walmart brand yarn is like almost half the price, and it is worlds softer. I've never even used the Walmart brand. What's their brand? Does it literally say Walmart on the brand? I don't even know if I've seen that. I can't get over the barfing and Rick and Morty. It makes my skin crawl, but I know a lot of people love it. There is a lot of barfing to the show. Not all episodes, but it's one of those things where it becomes an excessive thing. So, yeah. And Lori agrees. Yes, the weft. I think that would be really nice. All right. So I'm looking at my notes here, and this was when I was gonna say to check out Lacey's YouTube channel, but I mentioned that earlier. But if you're just now joining me, Lacey with us in the chat has just started her YouTube channel. So I linked her channel down below and her first video down below for you to check out at the end of this live and give it a watch. I thought it was really cute, and I'm very excited for her to be joining YouTube. And then I have photos to share of Thea, who's not with us today, but she emailed me in some of her finished objects of my one of my most recent patterns and then one of my older patterns. So I wanted to share that with you guys today because she is not in our Facebook group, and so there's no way to share her photos, but I thought you might like to see them. So this is the 550 striped shawl that I think it's the most recent pattern I released. And she used solid colors. So for her shawl, this is all 100% cotton. And she said it came on a cone and there was no brand label or anything. So I don't know what brand the yarn is, but I do know she said she used 100% cotton, and you can see she used black for color A and then striped in bright colors in between. And I really like the way that this shawl turned out in solid colors. I had some of my testers used solid colors too, and they used white instead of where Thea used the black. And so I thought it was really fun to see it with the opposite kind of a contrast. And I really like the way it turned out. So when I film my video tutorial for this one, when I do decide, maybe does Premier make a fingering weight? Probably not. I need a fingering weight yarn option. And it'll probably end up being solid like this too when I do it. But yeah, I think I'm going to go black with 4 bright colors that I like because I really like the way that hers turned out. Let me catch up with chat. Walmart brand is Mainstays. Oh yeah, I should have known better. I've bought Mainstays other things before. Thank you, Ashley, and thank you, Steve, for chiming in with that. I've never used Mainstays yarn. I think that pattern will translate to any yarn really well if I plan it right. I was planning to do it as a tutorial count on my YouTube channel for March. Oh, I'm down, Lacey. Yes, the Crochet Musselberg in March. And thank you again. You're welcome. Oh my goodness, that is beautiful. Yeah, I really think that it turned out beautifully, and you can see it's a nice long shawl that you can wear. I think she got a lot more drape with the cotton. Hers seems to be maybe just a tad bit deeper, a little bit more depth than my original, but it still has that nice and long length to it where you can wear it traditional shawl style, or you can wear it wrapped up like a scarf, which is how I like to wear the shallow triangle shaped shawls. The combo mainstays is, the cotton mainstays is nice. The sparkle type plumps when working up. Oh, that's good to know. That looks very interesting. Thea is a crochet beast. She has made several of my patterns and I love her interpretations. Yeah, she is definitely a beast. Let me see. Here it is from the front, so you can see it's still nice and long. And from the side. And then this is my other shawl pattern, which is not as big. So this was the first shawl pattern I ever designed, and I really wanted to stick to two. Let me go ahead and bring this comment down. I really wanted to stick to just 2 hanks of fingering yarn for this one for the price point, because I was using expensive wool. In my original, I used Dream in Color Smushy, I think, for both the black and what was cream and orange in my original. And then Nancy remade it out of her colors. The owner of Schmutzerella Yarns, she remade it in Knox, which is her black, and You Must Be a Weasley, which is her orange colorway. And even then, 2 hanks of hand-dyed fingering weight yarn it's a high price point for a shawl. So that's why it's so small. I wanted to keep it to just 2 skeins, and that's how far I could stretch it with this crochet design. So it's not a super big one that you can wear. I mean, she can still wear it traditionally, but you can see it's lacking in width. And for this one, I can't remember. She used an Ice Yarns and an acrylic, I think. Let's see. Oh, Hollow Web, my true love. Yeah, Hollow Web explains my design history. This was very complicated to be my first big design that was completely from scratch, my own. And this is how my brain works. I want to design things like this, but they're very complicated. And I've been trying to scale back and learn the basics before I can get into the designs that I really want to design. Once my skills get where I want them to be, it's going to be more things like this Hollow Web, because that to me is just so beautiful. I'm very proud of that design. What a lovely color combo on the Hollow Web. Yes, it's a nice middle pinky purple with black. In my 3rd or 4th sample I made for myself, I did a gradient light to dark purple with a black, and I really like how that turned out. I've got requests to add more yarn and add another section to this pattern just to make it larger. It's just sitting down to actually do that. It's a lot of work. So I've put it in a queue to do eventually. So there's a closer up photo of the shawl. And there it is from the front. So you can see you can wear it traditionally, but it's not as deep. It's not quite as wide as a very comfortable shawl. So yeah, I wanted to share those off because she sent them to me and I thought they were so pretty. I wanted to be able to share them with you all. And I asked for her permission. She said I could. All right. So moving on to Let's Chat, and then we'll close up this live stream for the day. How are you guys? How has your week been? What have you been working on? Have you been doing as much frogging as me? Have you learned something new? Have you tried something new? Let me know. My week, outside of all of the designing and ripping out and redoing and math and pattern writing, my least favorite parts of designing, the house that we're trying to buy, we had an inspector come out and inspect it, and it went very well. So now there's only one more step that's kind of like the last big hurdle, which is the bank appraisal. So as long as the bank appraisal goes very well, which I feel like it will, then basically the house is ours and we will close in the middle of February. So I am just like 2 steps closer to that farmhouse. I am so excited. It's going to be a ton of work. It's a fixer-upper for sure. We found out that the people that owned the property passed away, and then the people that inherited the property owed somebody money, and then they got the property and they just want to be rid of it, which explains why it's a little run down. Nobody's lived there for a couple years. So, but they did update some of the fixtures and things, and we're going to have to update a lot. So it's going to be renovation after renovation after renovation. And then hopefully we can move into the property this summer if all goes to plan and we get it. But I feel like it's like 90% we're going to get it. So that's super exciting. And like, I'm trying not to get too excited because there still is the chance that the appraisal could go in an unfavorable way and it could close everything down. But I don't think that's likely. But I don't want to celebrate until we get past that hurdle. So I'm like, gonna have a huge celebration in the next couple of weeks once that's done, because after that it's just waiting for closing day really. So that's super exciting. And then I think I mentioned last week that I started that MBF workout with Beachbody. I have the Beachbody on demand, and the trainer's name is Megan. I didn't catch her last name, but I've caught that her name is Megan. I'm like 12 days into it now, and I did something dumb. Like, when you work out and you've been going on for a while, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to step on the scale and see my progress. Well, I haven't lost any weight. And that's dumb because your weight doesn't determine your health. And I knew that. I am stronger. And when I look at myself, I'm more toned and I look healthier, and I am healthier for working out. So like I got on the scale and I was disappointed. I'm like, I weigh the same, but you track your weights each week. And I went from using 5-pound weights for all the exercises the first week to 8-pound weights this week. I'm stronger. I'm faster. I have more energy. I feel better. Everything feels tighter and stronger. I'm getting a little right there. Yeah, a little bit, getting buff. So that was dumb. So just a reminder, if you start a workout program, don't even worry about the scales. It's so dumb. But yeah, that is everything that's non-craft related that I wanted to chat about this week. So I'm going to catch up with you guys. Let's see. My daughter has requested the hollow web. She wants it in black and wanted to know if I could incorporate glow-in-the-dark beads like in your Lift Your Spirit shawl. Oh my gosh. I love it. See what you've done? Mocha, that would be wonderful. I think that would be so gothy and reverse spiderweb, right? Because spiderwebs, which is why it's called Halloween, Halloween spiderweb. Halloween was inspired by like the lacy designs of spiderweb. So if you did it black instead of white, and then you had your little glow in the dark cocoons versus your darker, cocoons are still like white, but they're dark underneath. Oh, I love it. I love that so much. But fingering weight's not your jam. So maybe you could still get away with making like a DK weight version. I know some people found glow in the dark beads that were bigger for fatter yarn back from when we did the Lift Your Spirits crochet along. No, Hollow Web is perfect. It's truly a masterpiece and perfect. Thank you, Lacey. I worked really hard on that one. Mando, maybe check out Kramer Yarns. It has various wool, cotton, and acrylic types and more affordable in a lot of colors. I have never heard of that yarn line. So let me write that down. Sorry. I live stream on my laptop on a not stable table. Say that, not stable table. So it bounces anytime I touch the table. I try not to do that. Yeah, I will give it a check. I'll check it out. I finished my mermaid tail blanket, last crochet Christmas gift I had to finish up. Yay! I also tried out tapestry crochet this week, got some practice in. Good! I love learning new things. I hope it's going well for you. I really like some of the things you can do with tapestry crochet, so that'll be a fun adventure. My craft week was all about the cow. Yes, Mocha's cow is starting on Monday, right? Monday. She's got, you can go check out the details in her last live stream. She shares the photo and start dates and all about the crochet along. I'm going to be participating, which is why I didn't add it in to check it out, because next week I should have some progress to show you on her crochet along. It's really pretty and like perfect for Valentine's Day coming up. You wrote a paper for school, oh, and tackled an evil assignment for a client. Oh, but you did it. You did it. It's done, and hopefully no more evil assignments. And I'm excited to start your crochet along. I'm going to be using two, let me show you. I'm going to be using 2 skeins of Hobbii Butterfly. I have them right here. I've got this, whoops. Oh, I almost knocked my light over. Let me go ahead and tip that back up. The cord was a little bit too loose. I've got this bin next to me full of yarn for my upcoming projects. This is one that I'm going to be starting next week, but I can't show you until the pattern's released, which won't be out for like 3 more weeks. And then all the Hobbii yarn for my sweater. But inside here is the yarn I'm using for Mocha's crochet along. This is Hobbii Butterfly. And I've got 2. She said you only need 1 to do it, but you need a second one for embellishments. I don't know that I'm going to be doing the embellishments, but I have a second one just in case. It's 100% acrylic, 200 grams, 500 meters or 547 yards of a DK weight, number 3. Does it have the color? This is color 8. So pretty. So yeah, I've got that for Mocha's crochet along. Catherine, just working on a Tunisian blanket, waiting on the directions for a sock test knit, and then fortunately downloading the game Angry Birds. Oh, well, hopefully the sock test knit goes well. I'm assuming there was a mistake, which is why you're waiting on the directions. That's never fun. I'm technically testing a shawl for Lacey that I'm waiting on directions for, because it's inevitable. There's mistakes. I'm showing you what's going on my designing side. It happens so easily. I've been in training for my new position, so my brain is filled up. Oh, all I can do is plain stitches, which is why the test has been perfect. Yay, that's perfect. Yeah, it's all half double crochet, easy peasy, with just some shaping. And that's the other thing about that Ice Cream Delight cardigan, is it like the shaping, while it's a pain to do the math and write it, it's really easy to follow. Keeping my fingers crossed for the farm of your dreams. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be years before it's back up to being an operational farm like it obviously once was. I went through and took all these pictures, and I'm very certain they had chickens and horses, because the barn has very skinny stalls, which could only have been used for horses. And I think it was really only used for potentially feeding time, but there are some like boxed off areas that could have been maybe for the horses to lay in to get out of the sun, or maybe they had other animals as well. I'm not sure. And then there's like a wired off like house, which I'm assuming was like a hen house with like a run path, which I think was for chickens. So I think the first thing we're going to get once we're moved in is chickens. And then we got to do a lot of work to the barn, and we have to redo the fences too. Like the fence, it's all fenced and there's a hot wire, but Lori was telling me when you have sheep, you need a really nice like metal tiny hold fencing. And right now it's just like these big posts with thick wood, which is enough to keep like horses or maybe cows in, but she said not enough for sheep, they'll escape. So we're going to have to run that wire fencing along it's like over 5 acres of pasture. So we'll see. That is so exciting. Sending lots of prayers and good vibes. Thank you, Catherine. Muscle weighs more than fat. Got to remember that. So that's what I kept saying too, is like, oh, I lost fat and I gained muscle, which is why I weighed the same. But I have one of those fancy scales that tells you your fat mass and your muscle mass, and it says they've stayed the same. And I'm just like, either you're lying or it just looks different. Look at them muscles. Yeah, I mean, Megan's workout program is a lot of weight lifting, and she has a very strong upper body. So we do a lot of upper body. So my shoulders are stronger, my arms are stronger, my triceps are stronger. Steve, it sounds like Annie's waking up, so I might have to cut this because I'm already like 35 minutes over. I'm working on 3 raglans, cardigans concurrently for my nieces currently, and a scrap blanket. Woo! So I'm not the only one that's working on more than 1 sweaters at a time. I frog 2 tanks I made a few years back. I wasn't wearing them much because they never really fit right, and crop tanks just don't match well with Pacific North weather. I agree, and I also don't like crop tops. But good for you for ripping out those tank tops and reclaiming that yarn to be something that fits better that you're actually going to use. It's kind of a hurdle to get over because I've frogged full sweaters too, and you're just like, can't focus on the time that's wasted. That was time spent learning. You've learned, you're growing, you will eventually get to the point where it fits and you don't have to rip things out. Well, I did pledge to work with thinner yarn, so at least it's mostly lacy, but there are a couple rows of single crochet in there for you, Kim. I will just warn you right now. I know you hate it. There's a couple. They're necessary to keep the colors clean, but they're there. Single crochet with fingering weight yarn. Just saying. That's my second favorite butterfly color. Yeah, isn't it gorgeous? It has that orange and the maroon, and I just love it. Thanks for the shout out. I'm excited for Monday. I am too. I'm super excited to start your crochet along. It looks like a nice advanced beginner friendly pattern too, if you're more of a beginner. I was thinking about getting a Karen cloud cake, but I'm also looking at using my shawl and a ball, but I will be cutting it really close on yardage. Yeah, that's scary. That's scary. Good luck on your cow mocha. Yes. And no muskox, Lacey. No muskox on the farm. You mean the first thing you aren't getting is a muskox? I will be getting 0 muskox. Those fat body scales aren't too accurate. They're an indication, but only accurate method is water displacement. I could see that. And it's like even the program recommends that you should only weigh yourself in the beginning and then at the end of 3 weeks. And I'm just about to be through 2 weeks. And also it focuses more on measurements. So I'll be curious to see how it is all in the end. But literally at the end of the day, I feel better. And that's all that matters. And because I'm getting my heart rate up 30 minutes every day, that's making my heart healthier. So I'm already healthier. Yay, I didn't miss you again. Hi, Brandy. Yay. It just caught me at the end because I'm about to wrap things up. Thanks, Maud. Yeah, I went over. I wasn't supposed to because my partner needs to get to sleep because he works 12-hour night shifts. So thank you so much for being here with me today. As always, I had a lot of fun chatting with you all. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and I will catch you here for another podcast next weekend, hopefully with some better progress on those sweaters. All right, until next time, guys, happy crafting.